All right, Facebook, this is June Collier, and welcome to Make Your Money Work for You. Now, what I want to do in this video, I'm gonna just kind of give you some brainstorming things to think about. But there is some new emerging technology or new emergency industries that we should be paying very, very close attention to. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because there's some things that I want you to see right here on the screen as I begin to talk to you about thinking about just different things that are going on and where you should be investing. Now, a few days ago, I talked about a free streaming service that the cable companies did not want you to know about. And that streaming service was called locast.org. And so what they did is they took local channels, and because the TV antennas are not really picking up these local channels that great, they actually turned it into a streaming service where you could get local channels via your internet. And so streaming services is becoming extremely, extremely popular. Now, one of the things that we know that the streaming services or the industry that jumped on streaming services, the company that jumped on streaming services first was a company called Netflix. You guys remember Netflix or know of Netflix? So Netflix actually jumped into the scene of streaming services. And you have to remember that Netflix started out as a company that used to send DVDs through the mail. And then they got to the point where they were actually streaming the movies online. They were the first to do it, and that stock really took off. So let's go and take a look at the Netflix stock. I mean, that was a stock that everybody wanted. My wife had some Netflix last year, sold it for a big profit margin. Netflix has just been a really, really great stock to own. So let's take a look at Netflix real quick so you can see what Netflix has done over the last several years. If you have participated in Netflix, got an opportunity to get into Netflix, you would have made some serious income. The company is now trading at $302. Let's take a look at the chart. You can see that back in 2014, the stock was trading at about $48. Today is $302. In 5 years, it went from $48 to $302. So that's, pretty interesting. I mean, it's had some tremendous growth over the last 5 years. If you look over the last 5 years, if we look max, if we go back to 2002, it was at 77 cents back in the day. Can you imagine? Even, let's see, 2007, it was $3.80. It didn't really start rising until about 2010 when it was $9. Imagine what you could have done had you bought this stock back in the early years when they first launched out at a dollar, at 60 cents. That would have been what we consider a penny stock back then. But streaming services has really taken it's just gone to a new place. And so one of the things that I want to kind of talk about is that Netflix had a deal with Disney. So a lot of the movies that you saw on Netflix were Disney movies, and Netflix basically had an agreement with Disney, and Disney showcased a lot of their movies on Netflix. At the time, nobody really kind of paid attention to Netflix. Nobody thought that streaming services were going to be as big as it became, and Netflix took off. So here's what happens. When someone takes off with a new technology or something new, you're going to have competitors. We know that. We know that anytime something is doing extremely well, a company is doing extremely well, there will be competitors that pop up out of that. And so that's what's starting to happen. We're starting to see a lot of different streaming services such as Amazon Prime, Hulu, now Disney Plus has one. So there's a lot of these streaming services that are coming out, and we got to start paying attention. Even Apple has come out with a streaming service. So I'm going to be talking about that. Let's go back and take a look at our screen here. and look at some of the other things that I want you to really pay attention to and really understand. So Disney just recently came out with what they are now calling the Disney Plus. Let me see here. Disney Plus, right? Disney Plus is the new streaming service that recently came out. And basically, what they are doing is they are actually going to stream their own movies, their own catalog of movies that they actually have. And so Disney has a lot of great catalogs of movies. They got Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. And so that's something that recently came out. I missed the ball on this. In fact, some of the investment channels that I've been following, they told me months ago, hey, Disney's is coming out with this streaming service. You may want to go ahead and get some Disney stock, take a look at it. Again, I drug my feet on that, but let's take a look at the Disney stock so that you can see exactly what's going on with Disney. Disney right now, today closed out at $147.65. But here's what I want you to take a look at. If you look, Wednesday, November 13th, Disney was trading at about 137. And then a couple of days later, it's at 148. Like it goes from 137 to 148 because it released its streaming services. It released its streaming services. And so Disney has been a really great stock, of course. It's got a good dividend rate. If we look at over the 5-year period, Disney has some upward trending growth, but this streaming services just popped. It popped that stock right on up there. And Disney is definitely a stock to pay attention to. Now, I'm curious as to what's going to happen with Netflix because the contract that Netflix has with Disney to show the Disney movies on Netflix, that contract is expiring soon. And so Disney is going to keep its own catalog and show its own catalog, and Netflix is not going to have that catalog to show on its streaming services. So that's why you see a lot of what's been going on with Netflix, with them trying to get actors and just a lot of new content on their offerings on their streaming services. And so that's what's going on right now. Disney has an advantage because they've got the catalog of all of these great movies. And so that's something to pay close attention to. The last thing I want to show you is one of the other guys that got into the game here. The other guy that got into the game is Apple. Apple got into the game of streaming services. I want to share this with you. We got to pay attention to Apple because on November 1st, they launched the Apple TV Plus. Apple TV Plus. So Apple TV is going to be, they're going to be offering another service for streaming. And so here's what I want you to understand when it comes to companies and some of the things that we've actually talked about. So let me see if I can share the Apple stock. Let's go here to Netflix. I'm sorry, to Yahoo Finance. We're going to type in AAPL just to take a look at what's going on with Apple. Let's take a look at that stock and let's look at the last 5 years. Look at what has happened on December 1st of last year. It was at 157. Today, Apple is trading at 267. That's less than a year. It has doubled in less than a year. And let's go look at the 1-year chart, and we see that it's really rising and it's trending upward. And so one of the things that you have to understand about a company like Apple, the thing that I like to joke around with people about Apple is Apple has, they got some like crackheads over that love Apple. Like you might be an Apple crackhead, right? And what I mean by that, I'm trying to get my screen to show here. I don't know why it's not showing. Let me get the controls here. See if I can get the controls to show. I don't know why my controls are not showing right now. let's see here. I might have the wrong window open. Give me 1 second here. I'm having some technical difficulties. Meeting controls. All right. So one of the things that I like to say about Apple users is that they are diehard fans. They are diehard fans. They got everything from the Apple iPhone. They got the tablets. They got the computers. Then they came out with the watch. And if you know anything about people who are fans of Apple, they're like Apple crackheads. Anything that comes out with Apple, they buy. And that's a good sign for someone that's investing in a company. When a company's brand is that strong that people will buy anything that that company comes out with, that's good news for an investor. Because one of the things that we're always looking at, and I'm going to jump back into the screen here, one of the things that we're always looking at when I look at a company to really kind of judge the company and see if this company is a company that I'm interested in, one of the things that I always do is I take you guys over to the company's financials. And what's the first thing that I talk about with the company's financials? The first thing I talk about is what's their top line revenue growth? Are they growing year over year? And one of the things that you have to understand is in order for a company to grow year over year, top line, what that means is that they have to make better sales or more sales than they did the previous year. And when you have a company that's been around as long as Apple has been around, it becomes challenging to make more profit or more sales than you did the year previous. Because at this point, everybody's got an iPhone. And those that are going to have an iPhone, they've already got the iPhone. Every time a new iPhone comes out, they're not necessarily standing in line for the newest iPhone anymore, although some of them are. But if you're a fan of Apple and the iPhone, when it's time for you to get a new iPhone, you just go get a new iPhone. So the sales is pretty steady when it comes to the iPhone. Then they came out with the iPad, and there was big sales there. Then they came out with the smartphone, the smartphone that Apple has, and then the stock went up again. Well, now what's happening with the streaming service, because it's tied into the Apple community, you're going to automatically have all of the people that are Apple diehard fans. They're going to probably get on board with that. And then what is that going to do? That's a new channel of revenue, a new channel of sales. And what that's going to do is that's going to help that company to increase their sales from the previous year, because now they have a new product that they're actually selling, and they're selling that new product to their already existing market, to their already existing fan base. You see how that works? So with this new product, this is going to add more revenue back into the company's pockets. And that's going to be something that you should be watching for, looking out for, because again, a company like Apple has rabid fans. I mean, if you've ever talked to people who are diehard fans of Apple and Apple products, all you got to do is put an Apple logo on the product and they're buying it. They're buying it. They're buying it. So, I look at this as a good thing for an investor, because as an investor, that Apple is creating a new product and it's going to create some new revenue streams, which is hopefully going to help them start increasing their top line revenue from the previous year. So you can see in 2016, they had $215 billion in top line revenue. In 2017, $229 billion. In 2018, $265 billion. But in 2019, they only had $260 billion. So they're $5 billion short from the previous year, because again, when a company grows, it becomes extremely difficult for every year for you to make more sales than the previous year. So that's why it's such a big deal of this new streaming service for Apple, it's a big deal because it adds another opportunity for them to add more revenue into their overall top line sales, which is going to be a strong buy signal for the company. And we can already see that just by looking at the stock itself. If we look at the stock, the Apple stock, and go back and just kind of look at the chart and look at where the stock is headed, the growth of the stock. If we take a look at in the last year, the last 5 years, we can see that this is definitely a stock that is on the rise and definitely a good stock. I mean, nobody questions Apple as a great stock to hold. And so I think this is going to be another great one to follow over the next couple of months and couple of years. And so as we look at the streaming services, right now, the streaming services, the big ones that are out there, you've got Apple, you've got Disney, you've got Netflix. Those are going to be some of the big ones that you might want to pay attention to, take a look at, see what they're doing, just kind of monitor and see if that might be something that you're interested in participating in. So again, I'm having trouble with my screen once again. I don't know why. So what I like to do is I like to just kind of give you things for you to start looking at so that you can really start understanding how the market actually works. Now, here's something else. You've got the 3 or 4 big streaming services right now that are battling for the consumers. But also the other thing that you have to do is look at the companies that serve the streaming services. So for example, what technology are they using to provide the streaming services? So even though you may not purchase the stock for one of the 4 companies that's doing streaming services, you may look at who do they use to make the streaming services work in the first place? What technology is behind it? And you may end up investing in the technology companies that help the streaming service actually work. So those are some things that you want to look at as well. Hopefully this video wasn't so long. I wanted to just kind of have a discussion in this video so that you kind of really understand how to look at new emerging markets. Now, the streaming service isn't so new because Netflix has been doing it. But what you've got to understand is that there's some new players that's coming in, Disney being a big player and Apple being another big player that are coming in to give Netflix a run for its money. And they've even labeled this the streaming wars. So if you go out to Google and type in streaming wars, you'll see that this is the new age. This is where everything is going. Most people are going to have some type of streaming service in their home, whether it be Netflix, whether it be Hulu, HBO, now Disney. Most people are going to have some type of streaming service that comes through their internet service for their entertainment and television viewing. So just something for you to think about. Again, this is June Collier, always trying to get you to start looking at stocks and looking at it from a way that makes sense so that you can invest intelligently. And just it's interesting. This is just interesting to me as we begin to see what's happening with this new industry. So that's all that I got for you. Hope that you guys enjoyed this information, and we'll come back again with some more videos and some more companies for you to take a look at.